Hi guys, it's Marc Zicree, Mr. Sci-Fi, and I am here in the Zicree mobile, the Mr. Sci-Fi mobile, in my self-driving car, but it's not being driven by me, it's being driven by Elaine, so I've made that joke several times on Mr. Sci-Fi lately. It's like fine wine, it just gets better with each telling, and with time. But I want to talk about Picard episode 4. Lately at the gym, I've been catching up on some TV while I run. And we'll talk about Handmaid's Tale Season 3 fairly soon, and we are launching a Kickstarter campaign to shoot Hour 4 of Space Command. We've just sent out the first hour to all of our backers and investors, and you can still buy Space Command shares. Just email me, marczicree@gmail.com, call me 323-363-1259, etc. Support Space Command. And we've also launched or are launching the first webisode, and we're in post on the audio play prequel. We're doing the graphic novel, tons of stuff, lots to tell you about in the future. But let's talk about episode 4 of Star Trek Picard. It's like Patrick Stewart is still a very talented actor, a very dynamic and interesting actor, but he is 80, and it shows. And there's a lethargy to this show that is. You want them to get on with it. You want them to get on with the story. And they have very few action set pieces in a given episode. There's probably fewer visual effects sequences, set pieces, than in the average episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. It's certainly less dynamic. But let's get into the nuts and bolts of this episode. One problem I'm having with this show is that it seems highly derivative of other science fiction series, science fiction movies, fantasy movies. And I'll give you an example. And again, when you create a show, you want to look at, who do I know personally? What do I care about personally? What haven't I seen before? Not just on Star Trek. I remember when I was a producer on Sliders, my boss once said to me, well, we're going to do a clone story. And I said, we shouldn't do a clone story. And he said, why not? And I said, because every other show has done a clone story. And he said, yeah, but we haven't. And I said, yes, but our audience isn't just watching our show. And it's a cliche. Well, they bought the clone story, and I ended up having to rewrite it, even though I don't put my name on other people's work. So I did a lot of page 1 rewrites on that 4th season of Sliders, and I'm very proud of that season. But the point being, even back then, I knew better than to just do what everyone else was doing. And when Michael Reeves and I and Winston Engel worked up the Captain Sulu series, after we did World Enough in Time, we came up with a bunch of characters we'd never seen before. And it wasn't just like pulling this character from that movie or that TV show and just doing another version of them. I think that for television to be meaningful, it has to be it has to have some inspiration in real life and not just the news of the day. It's like, oh, we're going to talk about Trump in science fiction terms. No, that's not a good idea. That's not strong enough. You have to really go deeper. So, but let's talk about episode 4. So, the whole thing driving this show so far is, Captain Picard, or Admiral Picard, or whatever you want to call him, Jean-Luc Picard, who is one character calls JL, which really doesn't work. She's sort of a surrogate Gates McFadden kind of character, and who used to call him Jean-Luc, and now he's got this woman who calls him, JL, and then they'll probably have another character who just calls him J, and then someone just calls him J, and so forth. But the problem is that ostensibly he's trying to save this girl who's in danger because her identical twin android sister got killed, saving him, and they're theoretically daughters of Data one way or t'other, and that's urgency because Picard does not know when these guys will show up and kill her, right? And she's unaware that she's in danger, so it should be moving like that. If you ever look at Terminator, which is a great example, or Terminator 2, there's urgency. We've got to get to them. We've got to save them. It's urgent. Even the new Terminator movie, the recent one, had that same urgency. So the fact that they're saying, well, let's pull together a crew and let's have these long conversations and let's talk about how boring space is, which is always a mistake. These characters, you should never have characters bored. You should never have characters bummed out or cynical, or it should have an emotional weight if you're going to go down that road. But because space is a great adventure, and the people who are exploring space. You know, the people on the Mars rover or Elon Musk or all these people, they're driven by an enormous curiosity and passion for what they're doing, and passion is interesting. You know, curiosity is interesting, but characters who are just kind of like la 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 aren't. And but okay, so they get the ship together, and they've got the Han Solo character, and they've got the sort of perky, blonde, young, you know, android scientist. You know, she's an expert on android. She's human. But again, who are these people? We have the woman who used to work with Picard, and she's along for the ride, but she's saying, I'm not going to be here for long, which of course she's going to become, you know, more and more an ongoing part of this apparently. But you're just longing for, you know, other characters, other actors, not to badmouth the actors that are in it. They're all working hard, but you want to see characters you know, characters. I mean, one thing that Star Trek has always been really good with is bringing back characters that we love. So, for instance, in the Star Trek movies, they brought back Mark Leonard. Even in JJ's movie, they brought back Leonard Nimoy. You know, there's a tradition of that where we re-encounter old friends. And but okay, so Picard, episode 4. So they're racing to find this girl. They're racing to save her. And meantime, of course, this Borgified Romulan woman has said that you know, the girl, you're the destroyer. So okay, well, and we know that she's an android and she doesn't know it, and she has this switch that can be turned and she becomes a killing machine and all of that stuff. So you know, but meantime, you want to save her. Picard wants to save her. I'm not quite sure why exactly, other than data, you know, blah blah blah. But so he's racing to her. But then suddenly he says, well, let's stop at this planet where I failed everybody. I was trying to save the Romulans, and I failed, and saved only a few of them. And it's kind of like, well, let's take a little break here and go and talk to these people, and maybe I can find some help from them. Which is like, okay, but it's kind of taken the air out of the urgency of the plot. Okay, so he goes down there, and the kid that was sort of hero-worshipping him 20 years earlier is now grown, of course, and is now a brilliant swordsman, of course. And again, this is where we start to get to, you know, old tropes, because the brilliant samurai swordsman who walks alone is such a cliche. I mean, we meet this character in Seven Samurai, the samurai who cannot be vanquished, and he's, you know, a man of few words, and this actor, the way they got him looking is he looks like his long hair, and he looks very much like one of the characters in Big Trouble in Little China. And so this is a character we've seen a million times, not fresh at all. And then they talk about the Romulans, some of them having this code where you say your feelings with no buffer, and again, that's news and less interesting than, you know, Romulans have been in the original Star Trek. But okay, we'll go with it. So, but we know exactly what's going to happen. The moment we meet that character, we know exactly what's going to happen. He's going to come with Picard. I mean, we had a similar character in Rogue One. That guy was blind, but it's the same basic character, and doing with the same trick. And swords, like samurai with swords. You know, Star Trek that was not what Star Trek was doing. I mean, except for Sulu, who was a swordsman, you know, that's much more, Game of Thrones, much more Lord of the Rings. And so this character is like a cross between something out of Seven Samurai and something out of Lord of the Rings. And they're kind of playing the Romulans more like Japanese culture at this point. And this character's name is Elrond. So he's very much like the elves, you know, the elf lord, and you know, the character in Lord of the Rings who's great with bow and arrow. And again, it's like the people writing this show have seen these various movies and various TV shows, but what do they really feel? What do they really care about? Where's their beliefs? You just don't get a strong sense of authorial voice in this show, which is a shame, because there's such great opportunity here. So, and then also, you know, Picard's down there on the Romulan, you know, refugee planet, and the Romulans are at a bar, and it says Romulans only in English, which is rather interesting. And Picard, of course, tears down the sign. Well, we as viewers know, why would he be doing that? It's crazy. He's picking a bar fight. Why would he be picking a bar fight? Only because the samurai kid is going to save his ass and come with him on the mission. But since he doesn't know the samurai kid is there, it's like, well, either Picard's being a jerk and getting himself killed, or it's just the plot knowing where the plot is going, so it doesn't, you know, so Picard does something stupid and, you know, gets his ass, you know, saved. So again, it's kind of like, well, why am I watching this? Why am I seeing something where I know exactly what the gag is? But okay, fine, great, swell. So then, of course, the Romulan kid is coming along, the swordsman, and we've got the girl who worked with Picard, who we haven't met before, the one with the crazy hair, and we have the blonde, perky, young space, scientist, the android expert, and she has this little banter with the Han Solo kind of character, and it's all kind of creaky and all kind of like, why are we having scenes with these characters? We don't know them, we don't care about them, they're not interesting. Why should they engage us? What is their dream? What is their vision? Who are they? And again, it's easily fixed, but they aren't doing it. It's okay. So finally, at the end, Picard's ship, the ship he's on, but he's not captain, so again, he's always deferring, which again is a mistake. It was like the first season of Star Trek: The Next Generation, where he always was surrendering. And finally, Michael Piller came aboard. They started to get a really strong writing staff, and they got second season. They got themselves in shape, and the show was great pretty much from then on. But okay, so they're trying to do this and that, and they get attacked by a Romulan bird of prey, and that's really fun because it's a great design from the original Star Trek. I'm wondering if that was a cost-saving measure, so that rather than spending the money on creating a new ship, I'm sure that there's places they can buy that ship as a ready-to-roll CG model, so that that might have been a cost-saving measure, but it's still fun. But then of course they're almost going to be blown up, and then someone comes out of nowhere and saves their ass, and their ship is going to blow up, and so they have to be beamed onto the Picard ship, and finally, someone appears, and it's 7 of 9. Now, we've known from trailers that she's going to be in the show, and you breathe a sigh of relief, because finally, there's someone for Picard to be in a scene with where we know who they are, and we care. And I met Jerry Ryan on the set of Voyager years ago. It was my friend Les Landau was directing an episode, so I went on the set, and she was I've always liked her. She's, of course, back then as 7 of 9, she was gorgeous. She's still very attractive, but she's also a really good actress, and she's able to project a strong character and intelligence, and so she wasn't just kind of the eye candy, so I'm really glad she's now in the show, and I really hope they use her well, but because finally the show could actually gain some dynamism, and I'm hoping it will. But so that's sort of where we are now. It's just kind of like I'm giving it a chance, and we all should give it a chance, and I'm rooting for it. But Star Trek just seems kind of tired and creaky, and what's the point, and we'll see. But if you want to see again what I do with this kind of material, watch Space Command, and I think you'll really like it. We're going to be shooting the entire first season in the days to come, 12 hours of Space Command, as well as the other 6 series of the Showrunners Network, the 6 pilots, and I'm writing the Greenlighting Yourself book, which I've already sold. So, subscribe to Mr. Sci-Fi if you haven't. Lots of adventures, lots of surprises to come. Watch the Space Command web series, which we're basically cutting it down into little bite-sized chunks of the hour pilot we're releasing to our backers and investors. Now it's complete, and I think you'll really, really enjoy it. It's got a ton of stuff in it, and it's really fun. And I love the characters, and it's Robert Picardo and Doug Jones and Mira Furlan and Bill Mumy and Bruce Boxleitner and Mike Harney from Project Blue Book and Orange is the New Black, and on and on and on. Nichelle Nichols is going to be in hour 3 of the show, and it's just and James Hong from Big Trouble in Little China and Blade Runner, and it's just, there's lots of surprises ahead. So that's it for now. Marc Zicree, Mr. Sci-Fi, in the Zicree Mobile, and this is the cover of issue 3 of Space Command Comics, which will be coming out soon, and we'll talk to you really soon. Bye, guys.